Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and Happy New Year to everyone out there. Happy New Year. It is 2026. Josh, I turned 30 this year. I feel like I'm going to be old. So yeah, that's exciting to look forward to. I will say the last about 6 days or 5 days have been better than the first day of New Year's, when for me, New Year's obviously kicks off, obviously midnight, January 1st. But this is the thing. That's when the Ohio State game started, and I know we'll get into it. So my first part of New Year's was kind of crappy. But Josh, how was your New Year's? What did you do the last few days? Did you have any resolutions? I don't believe in resolutions. I feel like you need to have goals, not resolutions. But do you have any fun resolutions that you decided to apply to yourself?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't really I got goals that I like doing and basically just this year is going to be getting my house more in order, more organized, getting more responsible and better with my time. I gotta I'm gotta get my Ring doorbell together over these next
So the
couple days.
trash can doesn't get stolen.
Right, so no more trash cans get stolen. Let's see. The last few days I've spent being sick and just trying to get through work.
That a baby. That a baby.
Yeah. New Year's Eve was a blast though. Was at a friends get together. My buddy's wife announced that they're having their first baby, which is cool. Also, initial shock going in on the invitations, they said to dress like either in like suits, ties, sparkly dresses, like New Year's, like kind of not quite
Yeah,
black tie
yeah, yeah, yeah.
attire, but didn't pay attention to that at all. Me and my girlfriend show up in sweats, and I'm going around greeting everybody. I'm sitting down eating food, and I'm looking around. I'm like, did everyone just decide randomly to dress nice, or did I miss something? And turns out I missed something. So it's okay
What
though.
what a jerk.
Yeah.
What a jerk.
Way to ruin all the fun. Yeah, I know.
It's all about
Spoiled.
you, Josh. What is this? It's all about you, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, it is all about the you though, as we
Oh,
find out New
why
Year's.
would you do that, you son of a gun?
We
I
have to
I
talk about it one way or another, Ben, because we
oh
got
God.
college football playoff semifinals coming up Thursday and Friday. We're
Yep.
down to the final four. We're going to have Ole Miss versus Miami. We are going to have Indiana versus Oregon, a rematch from the regular season. Two entirely different matchups that uh, I think are going to be fun. But we got to talk about how the teams got here. And let's just start, we might as well, with the New Year's Eve matchup there between Miami and Ohio State. I think the final score ended up being 24-14 in this one. It ended up being back-to-back losses for Ohio State. The concerns about the line of scrimmage, whether or not Ohio State matched up really well, proved to be true. Uh, let's see, there was a defensive touchdown for Miami. I think they also held Ohio State to just 45 yards rushing in this one. The pick six, though, really ended up being the difference of the game, it seemed like. Even though the final score is 10, I think Ohio State let Miami score that last time so that they could try to get some time to get, a score and then hopefully another shot late in the game. But yeah, Ben, this one, if you're an Ohio State fan, was definitely tough to watch. And I think everyone in the country might have been shocked outside of the state of Florida that the Buckeyes were down 14 to nothing to start in this one.
Mm.
And they just couldn't be explosive enough to get back into it. I know the second half looked way different, and we can discuss maybe the reasons for why this game went the way it was. But just, as a Buckeye fan watching this, what was going through your mind?
It's a good question, Josh, because I obviously I stayed up late for this game. I was excited. We talked about it on our show. Remember the show before? I was like, look, as long as Ohio State doesn't hurt themselves, they can win this game, right? And early on, I was like, okay, Miami's here to punch. High State's punching, but I started seeing the same signs as normal, which was Ryan Day be a little conservative. Also, everything just kind of seemed a little bit misconjobulated. Didn't seemed a little bit off at the beginning. Julian saying definitely like I think for the month you had, I feel like you had to have a better game plan than the what you did with that defense line. You knew they're going to blitz. You know they're going to send pressure. You know they're going to do twists. They're going to do stunts. You just know this because that's Miami. That's what they do
Seven
well.
sacks against Texas A&M,
Um,
5 sacks against the
and,
Buckeyes.
and I think for me it was like okay, the interception was really dumb, twofold. everyone blames it on Julian saying. No one talks about Jeremiah Smith just missing a block, just 100%
Jeremiah missed
missing
the
a
block.
block.
Julian Sayin telegraphed that pretty good. And I think if you like, do decent film study, that's a play that Ohio State has done a
Yes,
lot. So
and
if you can see the signs, you can jump that pass
well,
right there.
and again, someone did bring a point though that normally that's Jeremiah Smith getting the ball, and Brandon Innes, who was getting the ball in that sense, was usually the blocker. And Brandon Innes is a very good blocker. He's usually the one. So again, Ryan Day doing the play calling. He had different thoughts. When that interception happened, I'll be honest with you, Josh. That was about, I don't know, about 2:30 in the morning my time. I was like about to go to bed. I was just like, I can't deal with this. Um, but I also knew that Ryan Day is such, and you've said this, you've even said this, like Ryan Day is so good at halftime of somehow finding a way to claw back into games when he's down and kind of things. The sad part is this game reminded me of the Missouri game a few years ago and the Florida game back in '07 when Ohio State had a moment or two, but then it just seemed like they were dominated on every front. And you look at special teams, like at the end of that first half, I could tell you, Josh, sitting at I'm like right over here is like my TV, right over on this side. I was sitting in that chair over there, and I could have told you he was going to miss that field goal. I sat there and I went, he's missing this field goal. I've never in my life watched any football game of any level and gone, he's going to miss a field goal. Like I've never done that. But that's where we're at now. Where how come you look at some of these other games? You look at the Ole Miss game, their kicker hits 350 yarders, but Ohio State can't even hit a 40 yard. And so for me, I also look at the punting game. For some reason, we have a guy, McCarty, who's 6'7", 250 pounds, can punt a ball 65 yards, has never seen the down of daylight for Ohio State, and now is transferring because we stuck with one guy. And it's same thing I said about Brian Hartline. I love Brian Hartline, but he never played young guys. He doesn't rotate enough. He doesn't give like so. There's a lot of things I could go into, but I think the basic thing with this game is this: Ryan Day got outcoached once again. Cristobal now has beaten Ohio State twice in about 4 or 5 year stretch, and it's because he's outcoached Ryan Day. And do I think Ohio State could beat Miami on any other given day? Yes, but again, I think it goes back to what do you do well? What did Ohio State do well, Josh? It was when they hurried up at the end of the first half. It's when they started mixing it up with some good gap scheme run game, when they started making those short throws and those quick throws. But why did it take you 2 quarters, Josh? Why did it take you? That's the biggest frustration Buckeye fans have is why did it take you 2 quarters to even do anything? And then when you did find something that worked, you went away from it. And then the end of the game, the defense, which had been playing decent most of the game, they only need to get one stop. They're down 17-14. Like you said, Josh, it was a close game. 17-14. We get a stop. We get the ball back. We end up going down, and then we end up punting. So then we're like, okay, we have to get a stop. There's 5 minutes left. They had multiple plays on there's third downs multiple times. And what happened? We did nothing. We don't get a stop. Carson Beck freaking scrambled for 11 yards. When was the last time you saw that happen? Right? Like all these things that we thought was going on. And I'm just kind of confused, I guess, Josh, is just like I don't understand why over the last 6-7 years we can't really recruit amazing offensive linemen like these. I mean, I looked at the freaking Miami offensive line. They're all like 340 pounds and jacked. And Ohio State is struggling to they have a rotation at guard, right? And so there's obviously, when you're this good, this looks like a failure. But I do want to point out, and Josh Pate pointed this out on his show, like, guys, it's not a failure. Ohio State just went from basically losing their offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, quarterback to not only making the playoff, but winning 11 games in a year. Or, sorry, 12 games in a year. Like, and I think that was a good point. And I had to be reminded of that. Like, Ohio State, it's not like it's fallen apart. It's not Florida. No offense, Josh. We're not at that level, right? It's we are at a spot where you now have to make a decision. You have to make choices. And now with the transfer portal, and you've already lost 2 potential starting cornerbacks, offensive linemen, you're losing these things, but that's part of the game now. I wish they would have won this game. Man, I'm looking back and going, man, if we win that game, you face Ole Miss. Maybe is that a better matchup? Or what happens if Texas A&M beats Miami? Now, I think that is a great matchup for Ohio State. But at the end of the day, you did not take care of business. And I'm just so frustrated of Ryan Day playing this. It's like the kryptonite with Ryan Day. It's like the good and the bad. It's like you get this like like Two-Face. It's like there's one game where you get Ryan Day who's just coaching amazing, and it just seems like this game. It's like ever since the Missouri game a few years ago, his play calling in big games has been so conservative. Like he didn't take a shot. You have Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Josh, you have said this on this show every single time Ohio State struggled. You have two of the best receivers in college football, and you're not chucking it at them 95 times a game. If you can't run the ball, and again, I will be honest, they did hold us to 45 yards, but if you look at the running backs, Donaldson averaged 5 yards a carry, Jackson averaged 5 yards a carry. But the problem is when you're behind, you can't run the ball as much as you
Yeah.
want to. So that's kind of where I'm at. I know I was blabbing on, but I was just frustrated is what else.
Michael Irvin was a blast to watch in this game, and I saw so many videos on social media of just the super fan that he is. I love seeing guys love their team like that. I think that's going to be something that we miss here in the era of the transfer portal here pretty soon. But I bring him up because he said on the Rich Eisen show the difference between Miami this season and like the past seasons is Mario Cristobal's finally got them right on the line of scrimmage between him with the offensive line and Jason Taylor with the defensive line. And I think we saw some of that come out uh, and expose that as a weakness for Ohio State.
Hmm.
We saw this, I think, at times throughout the regular season, Ben, when Ohio State went up against Texas, when they went up against Indiana, when they go up against Miami here. The offensive line, we mentioned it before the season started, losing a lot of starters. Are they going to be able to hold up? And as it turns out, I think for most of the season, they were just good enough to get by, the teams like Washington, the teams like Michigan even. But when it came down to playing a team that was really good at the line of scrimmage, that was really good at defense, we started to see some of those weaknesses exposed. And every single team in the country's got weaknesses, but they don't always get exposed if your schedule during the regular season
Hmm.
wasn't hard enough. So that's something right there. And Caden Curry at the end of the game, I didn't really like the attitude that he showed with saying, they got us this one time, but if we play 9 times, or if we play them 10 times, 9 times out of 10, we're winning that one, and they got their one. It's like, you got bullied at the line of scrimmage, man. Like, they got to your quarterback 5 times. I don't think that is something that Miami's only winning 1 out of 10 with. I think that when you look at the past national champs, when Georgia was on their run, when Michigan was on their run, they always looked bigger and stronger than everyone on that line of scrimmage. You got to be good there. So that's something there. I do wonder what would have happened if Brian Hartline never took that South Florida job,
I do
what
as
the
well.
offensive play
I
calling would
do
have
as
looked like
well.
these last few games. I think that's something that's real. And I do wonder too, going to Ryan Day, like you said, his until last year, until the run they went on last year, like a big, part of his brand from everybody was that he can't win the big one. He shrivels up in the big games, and so the Big Ten championship and this one, you could add two more to that case. What if last year was the outlier where he
Hmm.
finally got, to the national championship? What if this is more of like the real Ryan Day? So those are a couple things right there that I think might have contributed to this that aren't being. I'm not using those as excuses, but
No, yeah.
a couple things that I think we're working against them. And you can address any of those if you want, Ben. But I also want to ask you now that we've seen this happen back-to-back seasons. Was it sweeter losing to Michigan but winning the national championship,
Hmm.
or sweeter beating Michigan but then losing in the playoffs?
I I'm probably gonna be a very very odd one here because obviously I grew up in this rivalry and I hate Michigan with the boiling blood, right? But I'll be honest with you, this hurts worse this year than it did 2 years ago, than it did last year. Like last year, we lost to Michigan. I was like, okay, this is kind of like, okay, we lost him. It sucks. We have a chance. This team, with the firepower you have on offense, with what you had on defense, you saw them beat Michigan. I was hyped after that Michigan game. You remember that show? I was like, dude, this is a run. We got this. And I'll be honest, I might be one of a very few. I mean, there probably are Buckeye fans, but I know there's a few guys that I watch that have said this too. Like they said, I want you to think back what you felt like last year and figure out this like sucks. Like this is probably the worst I've felt like after a game in a while because I know how talented this team is, and I also know that this team had everything it needed outside of beating themselves and poor coaching choices and those kind of things. Um, so yeah, I there's probably gonna be a lot of fans, and my dad might even be one of them that says like, "Man, I'd still beat Michigan and lose." I'm like, no, I want to win national titles, right? Like that's the banner you put up, right? That's the pinnacle of what you do. I still want to beat Michigan. I think you have to do both, but I think it also hurts too because you also lost the Big Ten championship game. You walked away with one thing. So I
Hmm.
look at it now as like, to me, the Big Ten championship thing still matters because Michigan has more than you. So now you want to top that, right? So for me, that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then the Brian Hartline thing is interesting because I do think it would change things. I think there'd be a lot of a shift and what would have happened. And I know some people would disagree with me, but I'm like that team was rolling. Even in that Michigan game, that team was rolling. And again, I look at Brian Hartline and go, if you're going to USF, like, did you really have to decide then? Like, was it did they give you an ultimatum? Like, that's what I was trying to figure out because
Well, yeah, with the
USF is
calendar,
not a
man, you
job
got to
that's
get down
like a
there and
desirable
bring
job.
guys in. You got to convince guys not to transfer. You got to get guys to transfer to
No,
you.
I get that. I get that. I guess for me is like just the way it kind of all unfolded. Like, dude, why are you doing it when you did? We both talked about it like the weird during signing week, the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't you just wait until after the Big Ten championship game? At least get through that time. That gives you time.
Like all
But
the all the big coaching moves happened. Then it was like the dust settled, and then a few days later, it's like USF hires Brian Hartline. We're like, what?
yeah, and I think my other thing too is that, and again, this is not an excuse, but I agree with Dan Lanning 100%. I know we'll talk about Oregon in a second, but Dan Lanning made a great point. Why are we playing these games 3 weeks after the Big Ten championship game or the championship games? They should be played in a row. The championship game should be January 1st. You should not make teams wait three. We don't even do that in the regular season. So why are all of a sudden we doing it now? Right? You can still do the bowl games. You can still do everything else. You should play these games, be done by January 1st. Am I crazy to say that, Josh? Am I crazy to say that that's affected these teams? I know Indiana survived, but again, they were playing Alabama, who's just was bad. But
Yeah.
don't you agree? Like they're 1-7 in the last 2 years. That's not a coincidence that these teams are 1-7.
Yeah, the teams with the buys 1-7. I think he nailed it. It was something I never thought about. Why they're still making the games 3 to 4 weeks out, and it's because they're trying to serve two purposes. They're still trying to have bowl season like it was last year, where everyone had a month off before they
Yep.
played again, and they're trying to make some of those games just happen to be playoff games. And it's like you gotta, go one or the other. Like trying to serve both of them or two purposes just isn't really working out for everybody. Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I love that Dan Lane said that. Something he's been saying for a while. He thought that they should have been playing their game down at Lubbock, Texas, which I also agree with. I think playing that Miami game up in Columbus would have been a blast. Same with all the other ones.
That would have changed things too. You're out in the cold
Those
compared to
teams
the
not only deserve a bye, they also should be getting a home playoff game themselves too.
yeah. And again, so will that I actually do believe, Josh, this is something that could possibly change in the next few years.
You're
I
getting
would
enough
not be
evidence,
shocked.
yeah.
I
Like
wouldn't be shocked if this changes.
last year, some of those teams that had a bye were Boise State and Arizona State, and they wouldn't have even been in the playoff, if we had
Yeah.
just the 12 best teams. So them losing made sense. But this year, watching Georgia go down again, and then watching Ohio State go down again, I think we got enough evidence that that bye really hurts you. That bye week definitely really hurts you. And
It
Texas Tech
does.
didn't score any points in their game either against Oregon.
Yeah.
But just to conclude, my thoughts on Ohio State and like whether beating Michigan and win national championships better. I think before in the four-team structure, you had to beat Michigan so that you could get that shot at the national
Yeah.
championship. But now in the 12-team era, you can afford to lose a couple games and still get your shot, which we're seeing Miami get their shot right now as a 10 seed in the Final Four. Whereas before, if you lost that game to Michigan, no Big Ten championship, really good shot that you weren't going to make the playoff either, which is why beating them was as important as it was then. It's still an important game in the fan base to, beat your rivals, but yeah, just a different change in landscape. And I was curious which side you would lean on since it's happened back-to-back seasons now. But
Yeah.
why don't we go ahead and discuss Miami's opponent, Ole Miss, and how they got here. Because them beating Georgia, it lived up to what I thought it would be. That was the most exciting game, I think, of the whole playoff. Like, as good as the Miami Ohio State game was to watch, I thought Watching Miami, or not Miami, Ole Miss go down after Everett got that defensive touchdown. I think it was 21-12 at that point. I thought that's when Georgia was gonna just continue to run, and that was gonna kill the spirit of Ole Miss. But Trinidad Chambliss was on a mission, Ben. He had all kinds of crazy schoolyard looking plays where he just didn't give up on the play and would find guys downfield. He'd dink and dunk it. He'd scramble around. Had one of his best games ever. Uh, and the defense stood tall. They were getting at Gunnar Stockton. This was a good game for Gunnar Stockton too. I don't want that to go under the radar, but yeah, Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin now is in the
I
semifinal.
love this so much, by the way. I love the
Isn't it
fact that
great?
Lane Kiffin got kicked out and now they're dominating. And I hope LSU sucks next year, and I hope Ole Miss does another a run next year. Um, and the fact they're doing this with coaches that are basically leaving, like they have barely any
Well, they're not going to
coaches.
be there for the
Yeah,
semifinal game. Five of the six. I think
yeah.
Charlie Weiss Jr. is the only one that's staying. It was announced.
Yeah, and it's funny because I just found out Charlie Weiss Jr. is a chance that he goes to the NFL for a head coaching job, which would be just another stab in the heart to Lane Kiffin, which would be great. Um, no, this game was amazing. So, like I told you that I had a bet with my friend. So when Ohio State lost, I was bummed because I wasn't going to be out of the bet of Ohio State versus Georgia. And then when Georgia lost, I was like, look, we both don't have to worry about it now. Um, but he was telling me because he watched that whole game. He stayed up. Obviously, he was in the States during this time, so he was able to watch it. And I asked him a couple days later, like, "What'd you feel about it?" And he said he felt like that if they're going to lose, this is the way they want to lose. He would hate to lose the way Ohio State lost, right? Where you feel like you could have won, you got dominated. He goes, "This game was just epic." He goes, you way to go down." He did point out though that you know what, maybe the Big Ten is the superior conference right now as you're looking at the fact that you have Old Miss as the Final Four team. And again, that's another conference for another day. But the people that keep telling me the SEC is king, I just look and go, okay, yeah, sure. Two of the four teams are from the Big Ten, and probably one of them is going to win it. So, yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But Old Miss, man, I'm proud of them, man. Chambliss, just because like he's from Ferris State, like D2, like
Yeah.
earned his stripes. Like those are the guys you love, right? You look at Mendoza, you look at a lot of these guys that earn their stripes, and um, so for me, I think Old Miss is going to give Miami a lot of problems. I think the one thing Old Miss is going to give Miami problems is this: Ohio State, Julian Sands, not a mobile guy. Now, many times during that game, I think about the game against Ohio State is when at the end of that first half, the field goal kicker mixed it, but that's because you made it a 50-yarder. If Julian Sands just scrambles on that third down play and gets 10 yards, it's a 35-yarder. It's probably a make. And what I'm saying is, the reason I'm saying that is because Old Miss, Chambliss, he's going to he's going to run. He's going to use his legs, and I think that's the one way you can beat Miami. What do we see, Josh, at the end of the first half against Miami? Where were the defensive line? Where was Mesidor? Where was Bain? They were on the sideline. They were huffing. They were puffing. Miami does not rotate their defensive linemen. So for me, if I'm Old Miss, I'm using that to my advantage. You have a great running back. You have a great passing game. Um, so I really thought it was amazing how they came back. I actually think this is maybe a tougher matchup than Georgia would be for Miami. And so it's gonna be a great matchup. But for sure, that game was awesome.
Yeah, the other things that I was noticing too is just the situations that Kirby Smart was deciding to go for it on fourth
Mm-hmm.
downs. Like he really did not want to put the ball in Trinidad Chambliss's hands.
Mm-mm.
Like
Mm-mm.
they felt like they needed to get that fourth down. And
From a defensive coach, by the way.
yeah, from a defensive coach, like just like we can't do anything to stop this guy. So the only thing we can do is keep the ball away from him. That's why they were making decisions like that. It's just feeling hopeless like that. I mean, even at the end of the game, Kirby didn't even like look mad or like I'm sure he was
Nope.
upset that they didn't win, but it was just kind of like I think he thought that they just got beat by a better team and a quarterback that was just playing out of his mind in one of those modes that it's like you aren't going to beat this kid.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
The one thing about this matchup that I'll be curious about, Trinidad is a mobile quarterback. When Miami was going against a mobile quarterback like Marcel Reed, they sacked him 7 times. They got 5 sacks against Julian Sands. So will that trend continue? And how much will Ole Miss's offense being as explosive as it is? Because that's something that they're really good at. They're like top five, top 10 in the country in explosive offensive plays. So while Miami might, be able to get their big play, sacking, getting a 10-yard loss, how much will that be offset by the random, 50-yard bombs that Chambliss can hit when he sees someone like Wallace down
I
the
mean,
field or
you
something like
saw
that?
Ohio State burn him with that. I mean, High State had a 50-yard pass to Jeremiah Smith. We saw multiple plays where Jeremiah Smith was running wide open down the field. So it's going to be there. For sure going
Miami,
to be there.
yeah, Miami's been doing good stopping the run. I had mentioned before, Lacey's worst game of the season was against Georgia. He only had like 30 yards. This one he had almost 100. So he had a good game here, got on his feet. How much of a threat can he be? And then it's like from the Ole Miss defensive side and Miami offensive side, Mark Fletcher's just been on a tear too.
Yeah.
I think he
Carson
can. I
Beck is
think
bad, by the way. Carson Beck is not very good, even
he's
against
not
High
very
State.
good. He's not very good, but Miami hasn't asked him to do a whole lot yet,
Yeah.
and that's
That's
because
the problem I think a lot of people are worried about if you're a Miami
Mark
fan.
Fletcher's just been, handling it, running the football. So Carson's just been able to be literally like a game manager, only doing, the small dink and dunk stuff. He's not been asked to like take over a game and make like, you know, 8 or 9 passes on a single drive or anything like that. So I think the keys to victory here for Ole Miss are you got to continue to get those explosive plays because I still think
Hmm.
Miami's going to get theirs as far as the pass rush goes. You got to continue to get these explosive plays to offset that. And then the run game right here too. Lacey and Fletcher are good running backs. I think Lacey's got to get his to an extent. He doesn't need 100 yards because he didn't need 100 yards against Georgia. But you do need to stop Mark Fletcher. I think even more so. Trinidad I think can do okay if you take the run game. He'll make enough like big plays. He'll scramble around a little bit and extend drives.
Hmm.
But I don't think Carson Beck has that ability in him right now. So if you can take Mark Fletcher out of this game and make Carson Beck beat you, I think that's where Ole Miss wants to be.
I
But
agree.
again, Texas A&M hasn't been able to do that. Ohio State hasn't been able to do that. So will Ole Miss be
What's
able to do
your what's your
it?
score? What's your score prediction for this game?
Well, the last point that I was going to make is that Pete Golding's basically going to be on the sideline just with him and Charlie Weiss. I don't know like what's going to happen as far as
Bunch of
coaching.
grad assistants with him.
Yeah, like who's coaching this game? Like who's getting the offensive
It's
line
true.
ready? Who's watching film with them? Who's getting the receivers ready? All those kind of
Yeah.
things. And I think that's going to be something real that Oregon's going to have to figure that out against Indiana also, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But I'm leaning Miami right here, and I think that for Miami to win, it's going to have to be a little bit more of a grit fest. Holding Ole Miss under 30 points isn't going to be easy, but I think they're going to have to do it and that they will do it. Uh, so I'll go ahead and say Miami wins 27-24.
It would be interesting if we have back-to-back years where a team wins 4 games to win the national title. But for me in this moment, I really, I really feel like the one way you can beat Miami is if you make this a shootout, because then they can't rely on Mark Fletcher. And so for me, that's why I'm leaning towards Ole Miss. I just think that the way this offense played against a really good defense, by the way, Georgia's a very good defense.
They are.
Um, they can keep those ends kind of busy. I'm going to lean Ole Miss. I'm going to say Ole Miss wins this game. I'm going to say I'm going to say 38-31 Ole Miss. I think it's going to be one of
38-31.
those.
Miami
I
still
think it's
gets
going to be.
31 on the board.
I think. Well, the reason I say that is because I do think they're going to be some of those cheap touchdowns at the end. I think there's going to be those like turnovers. Those. I
The
mean,
garbage time
again,
stuff.
garbage time stuff, punt returns, whatever it might be. But I do think that it's going to be one of a bigger margin. Maybe it's like a 38-24 or whatever, and then there's that extra touchdown. But I just think Ole Miss is going to have too much firepower at the end of this game. And I saw how
It,
the Miami defense by the end of the game was getting very tired. You saw how Ohio State was moving the ball in the last second half, Josh. They were moving the ball very easily in the second half at times. And so that's why I also lean that way as well.
yeah. I think just for me at the end of the day, I'm leaning on Miami at the line of scrimmage and the fact that they got all their coaches. I think those are the tipping points for me, but it wouldn't shock me if Ole Miss won this game. Just like you said, we saw them beat a really good Georgia team. Over on the other side, we got Oregon and Indiana matching up, a game that we saw in the regular
This feels like a
season that
national championship game.
I mean, it does. They played in the regular season at Autzen Stadium, and Indiana came away with a 10-point win over there. But let's just start with the the Oregon Texas Tech game. This was a game that I think Oregon got away with a lot of mistakes, a lot of sloppy play, but their defense was just lights out. Like when you force, I think it was 4 turnovers in that one, you're basically going to be able to do whatever you want on offense, whether you execute well or not. Uh, So yeah, Texas Tech came in with the bye. They definitely didn't look their best, and Oregon just kind of. I don't know if it was so much as playing with their food, but I think it was more of a testament to Texas Tech having a really good defense too.
Hmm.
Uh, Doing really well against the Oregon run game. Uh, I mean, 23 to nothing. It's like I do have some questions about Oregon after that one, but for now they did get the job done. They did get to advance, but yeah, it's really hard for me to figure out what to make of Oregon. The James Madison game, like they were electric. We knew that they were going to score a lot of points in that one, but the defense allowed a lot of points, but that also was, second string guys. And then you go against Texas Tech, who's playing all their starters, who's a much better team than James Madison, definitely belongs there. And the offense really struggled in that one. I don't think the defense is going to be able to play that dominant against Indiana and make the offense be able to get away with that. But that's getting a little further ahead. Just focusing on this game, what was your takeaway from Oregon?
I, I kind of with you on this. I did. I mean, the defense played really well. I mean, again, Texas Tech has got a very good offense. Um, I also love how people were hyping up Texas Tech like they were going to make a big run. And I said this, remember, if you do remember, I said this from the beginning, Josh. I said, I feel like Texas Tech is not going to make a run like people think they're going to. I just I didn't see it really there. And Oregon kind of proved that. I mean, Oregon defense played really well. Their offense, like you said, did seem shaky at times. But again, I think with this becoming a Big Ten game, I think the Big Ten battle is going to be a lot different. There's that revenge factor that Oregon wants. So I think there's a lot of factors that play into this. So I'm interested to see how that goes. But yeah, I think overall it was a win by Oregon. That's all that matters at this point.
And of course, they'll face Indiana, who put the phew, man. I,
Alabama's
I think
bad, dude. Alabama's not good.
I
They're
was gonna
not good,
say
dude.
I think that a lot of people are gonna point to this game and say Alabama. It proves that they didn't belong, but then again, they beat Oklahoma,
No,
so it's like
it
maybe they
proved
did belong.
Indiana belonged. It proved that Indiana belonged for sure.
Yeah, I don't go with like results from the playoffs proving that anyone belonged because SMU got boat raced last year by Penn State, but by the metrics and the field and everything, of course they belonged there. Just because the result in the field didn't show up, they did enough in the regular season to earn that
Hmm.
spot. I never thought Alabama did enough in the regular season to earn their spot.
No, I
So the
agree.
fact that they beat Oklahoma, came back from down 17-0, didn't change my mind, and that didn't take away or change anything that we saw in the regular season.
Hmm.
But I'm glad that Indiana got to embarrass them. This is Alabama's worst loss, I think, since '98, or the first time they lost a postseason game by 35 points since 1998 or something like
Hmm.
that. They're cutting to Kurt Cignetti's face in the sideline every time they score, and he just looks like he's pissed that they're winning as bad as they are. Like, why aren't we up 40 to nothing? Why aren't we up 50 to nothing? Why aren't we up 60 to nothing, guys? Like, this is unacceptable by
And
me.
that's the thing that bothers me because that's what I want Ryan Day to do. Like why? And someone brought this point up. Why doesn't Ryan Day and some of these other coaches? Why don't you in the regular season when you're playing a Big Ten opponent and you're up 24-7, run up the score? Right, like Woody Hayes used to say, like why'd you go for two, why'd you go for two? Because
Why'd you go for two? Because I
I
couldn't
couldn't
go for
go
three.
for three. Like, so for me, it's like, why aren't you doing that? Again, I don't really love Signetti that much, but I admire the fact that he just doesn't care what people think about him, doesn't care what people think about his team. And I wish that Ryan Day would go back to that because he used to be that. Ryan Day used to be that way, very much like I'm going to run the score up. Look at that Michigan game a few years ago, and it was like 63-28. Like he did not care. So for me, that's the same thing. But again, I'm interested to see how this game unfolds between these two. I think Indiana's offense is really, really, really good. I think their defense is solid across the board. I think Oregon's defense is really good. Their offense needs to show more. Um, Man, I hate to say this because I think Indiana has a chance to go 16-0 for the first time since Yale in 1895, right? So for me, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm gonna have to go Indiana here. I think Indiana is going to be the better team, and I think they're going to win a lower scoring game. But I think it's going to be definitely a game that Indiana walks away with, and I'm going to say Indiana wins this 21-14. Indiana.
Yeah, I think at this point, there's like Indiana, people got to accept the fact that they're really freaking good. And we even
Hmm.
fell victim to this when we predicted the Big Ten game. We thought that Ohio State was going to score or win by multiple scores on them. And that wasn't really because we thought Indiana wasn't a good team. We just thought Ohio State was like that team.
Yeah.
And it just, Indiana now has beaten, uh, Oregon once. They've beaten Ohio State. They've beaten Alabama now. They were the only team that got a first round bye and seemed to handle it really well. And that just
Hmm.
speaks to how Signetti coaches, how he gets his teams ready. I love hearing his answers on the sidelines when they say, how do you get your guys to be able to overcome that Alabama mystique? And he says, you know more about it than they do. They just know what they see on tape.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
love it.
yeah, they're disciplined. We saw Alabama try to get them to jump on fourth down, and they didn't bite. And then they cut to Signetti on the sideline again, and he's just got his stone cold killer face on.
Yeah.
I think that at this point, Indiana is just going to continue to do what they do, getting them off their rhythm, rattling them. I don't think you can do it. It's going to be really hard, at least. It's not impossible because, like we've been saying, they've been in a lot of close games. They only beat Ohio State by 3. They only beat Penn State, I think, by 3 or 4. The Oregon game, the first time was a 10-point game. Iowa was a 5-point game. So you can hang with them, but they've been, the team to, finally to, put the nail in the coffin at the end and secure that win. And from what I've seen from Oregon, I think you can point to things that need to be better in the James Madison game, things that need to be way better in the Texas Tech game. You also got the offensive and defensive coordinator not, you know, taking care of things, trying to do two jobs at once. Indiana doesn't have that right now. I think that's going to continue to be a concern for them. At this point, I got a lot more questions about Oregon than I do Indiana, and I'm going to lean Indiana in this one too. Uh, we'll go Indiana. I think they reached the 30-point mark. I'll give Oregon a little bit more. I'll go Indiana 30-23 here, but yeah, I think that Indiana is gonna continue to get it done. And right now, I don't think anybody in the playoff that's left is gonna be able to beat them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be a really upward battle for any team that faces Indiana, the way they're rolling. When you get an offensive MVP as a center, I think your team's pretty good.
Yeah, I
So,
that's I was just like, how do you have an offensive lineman stand out that much? Like you got the Heisman Trophy winner. He only missed 2 passes all game, but it's the offensive line that's winning the MVP in this one.
exactly.
That's that and Mendoza and everybody was so excited that he got it. Like these guys just play as a team. They don't really care who gets the glory.
Yeah,
Man, so
I think it's going to be a fun ride. That's all I got to say. It's going to be a fun ride.
yeah. And by the way, Signetti's continuing his momentum in the portal. They just got a huge get with Nick Marsh from Michigan State coming in here. A lot of portal movement all around. I think we can touch on a couple of the big ones, like Brandon Sorsby going to Texas Tech. I don't think it's official, but Sam Lovett's rumored to be going to Kentucky. I know DJ Lagway had a visit with Florida State. But Ohio State has had a lot of exits, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. That
Yeah.
2024 class had so many high rated guys. That's the class that had Jeremiah Smith, of course, but Aaron Scott, Bryce West, uh, James Peoples, the Armstrong brothers on the offensive line. I think Mylan Graham also. They're all taken off. And do you think that that's something that Buckeye fans should be reading into, or do you think it's just they didn't get on the field these first 2 seasons and they want to go somewhere where they can start? But then again, this coming season would have been the year that they would start.
Yeah, I mean, I look offensively, you lose Tegra Shabola. He's looking in the transfer portal, but I mean, outside of that, you're gonna have your starters back on every spot except Carnell Tate and now Tegra at right guard. I mean, all your starters are gonna be back. Defensively, like Aaron Scott, those guys losing those two corners.
I think Aaron Scott and Bryce West being homegrown
Yeah,
recruits from Ohio.
that's the thing I'm saying is like the Armstrong brothers the same way. Like
Yeah.
it does worry me that we can't keep Ohio kids home. But again, there's so much chirping in these ears, man. I think we have to remember that. And like, Wes is going to go up and play for Luke Fickle and at Wisconsin, which I'm like, really? I guess you truly wanted to start because that is ironic because you would have probably been the starting nickelback.
I think you would have because Igbenogsen's probably going to be gone. Caleb
Yep.
Downs is gone. Like a lot of
And
the secondary.
Jeremiah Matthews would have moved out. Sanchez would have moved outside, and then you have that in that spot. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Ohio State. I mean, they've only grabbed Mason Williams from Ohio as a tight end. They've grabbed a long snapper, and then they've looked at kickers, but then they just grabbed defense tackle. But what I've heard though is the reason Ohio State has not been so active is because they're trying to retain their roster. They're trying to get McDonald to come back for a senior year. They're trying to get Kanata Jackson back for a senior year. They're trying to not waste their money on guys that are just going to walk out. And again, if you look, they've only lost 16 or 17 players scholarship wise, and that's about where they were at last year. It's just these are more visible because of the tough times that they've just been dealing with.
Hmm. I think you definitely got to go out and get some guys on that offensive line, though. Like we
Mm-hmm.
said, that was a weakness that just wasn't quite able to be exposed to the magnitude.
And it might be a new offensive line coach. You might need a guy who's actually been coaching that for a while.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely got to find a really good offensive coordinator too. And we'll wait and see what happens with Matt Patricia, but might have to hire two coordinators all over again there as well. It's going to be an off season for Ohio State, that's for sure.
A very
Uh,
rare one, but yes.
yeah, it's going to be an interesting off season for the Cleveland Browns too, and I think that's
Oh,
a
goodness gracious.
segue to the way that Cleveland ended their season. We had the sixth pick after beating the Bengals. Shador Sanders came out, didn't score any points himself, but the Browns were able to score 20 against one of the worst defenses in the NFL to come out with a 20-18 victory to end the year and solidify us as the sixth pick in the draft. It also uh, resulted in Kevin Stefanski being shown the door. Andrew Berry sticking around for some reason, even though he's the one that created this whole mess and told Kevin, you got to coach this team. So I thought that decision was interesting, but yeah, a lot of questions for this offseason, Ben, and I don't know if we can look around as fans and say, well, this is what obviously needs to change, but I think just with hands being tied with money, certain bad
Mm.
contracts, the lack of draft picks that we've had, and it's not a situation I think you're going to really be able to lure a lot of the big time coaching candidates. Like, what about the Cleveland Browns quarterback situation right now is going to be exciting for someone like you know uh, like a Jesse Minter or a Brian Flores or a Mike
Hmm.
McCarthy or Marcus Freeman or whatever, Brian Dayball, any big time coaching candidate, like why would they want to come over here and deal with this mess for at least one more season?
Especially with Deshaun Watson still on the freaking payroll.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean I say all that because I think they're going to get stuck starting Shador Sanders
uh, I
next
also
season.
just got a notification that John Harbaugh is out as the Ravens head coach. Breaking news.
That was one of the longest tenured coaches in the league, and
So, hey, Cleveland. Hey,
I was
Cleveland.
wondering if because they played Sunday night, the loser was going to miss the playoffs, the winner was going to get in.
Hey,
Those are two of the longest
Cleveland.
tenured coaches. Yeah, those are two of the
Could
longest tenured
you
coaches.
want to give John Harbaugh a call for us, will you? But also I look at it too, like the Browns. I mean, it shows you though, Stefanski still, I think, to some people is a good coach because within 24 hours he was already getting calls from other NFL teams. Um, People will say it wasn't Stefanski's problem. I'm sorry, I don't care if, and I think Stephen A. said it pretty well. Like, I don't care that you got handed a bad hand. Like, you're the head coach. Your job's to make it work.
And he very much
Um,
wanted this situation with Deshaun Watson as Andrew Berry did. He
Well, the
never
thing
liked
is,
Baker
there
Mayfield. He
was a
wanted to go
few
get
people that
his
came out.
guy.
Well, there's a few people that came out and said, well, he said that he wasn't in favor of this trade. He didn't want this trade. But I'm like, okay, then
That's a lie. I'll never believe that.
I mean, I won't believe that. It could be the that dirty thing you leave when you're leaving. But for
Yeah.
me, it's hard to believe because like I guess yeah, I don't know. I just
For me, it's just if you're gonna fire Kevin Stefanski, you got to fire Andrew Berry too because he created the situation, and it's gonna be hard for any coach to win with the hand that he gave Stefanski. So I think if
and
one
also
guy is gonna get fired,
The Haslam saying they listen to the fan base. Like, no, you don't. You just decide to build a stadium way
when
outside the
everyone in the
city.
city of Cleveland was fighting that move.
So don't tell me you listen to the fans. So I don't know, man. I was so frustrated at the Browns ownership and the way the Browns handle themselves. And I don't blame rookies and stuff that don't want to come play for the Browns. I don't blame them. It's atrocious. They should spend every pick on an offensive lineman in the draft. They should get things they only need and deal with it that way.
Yeah. So Shador Sanders, Ben, finished the season as I think he set the record for the worst QBR for a Browns rookie quarterback with a minimum of 6 starts. He
Oh,
was
jeez.
the least efficient quarterback in the NFL in terms of EPA per play. He was, I think, the most turnover machine quarterback since he came into the starting rotation, whether it was like week 11 or 12 or whatever that was, threw the most picks. Uh, everyone wants to point to the offensive line, the receivers, and you can run through numbers. Cleveland was getting way better pass protection grades from Pro Football Focus when Shador was the starter. No one had more time to throw the football than Shador Sanders. Running through, the AWS stats, he had the longest time out of every quarterback to throw the football. So miss me with that. The receivers and the drops, like, yeah, we saw those come up on tape, but he also had a lower expected completion percentage than Dylan Gabriel did, which factors in the drops and how accurate you're throwing the football and stuff. It's like this guy looked like a fifth round pick, and I don't think that if he had the first round aspirations from everybody, that we'd
Hmm.
be talking about him in this way. It's just such a double standard to bash Dylan, say it was all his fault, but then when Shador comes in and plays worse, it's all of a sudden everyone else's fault. It's the
Well,
receiver's
he
fault,
brings
it's the
them. He
offensive
brings
line's fault, it's
the.
the coach's fault, it's the owner's fault, it's the general manager's fault, the fans' fault, the city's fault. It's everyone's fault except his own. It's possible for them to both be terrible.
Yeah, he brings his own flair. I don't know.
Legendary, baby.
Yeah, man. Yeah, legendary, terrible. Um, they just have to get this right. You have to get this head coach right. And if you notice that Andrew Berry is not your guy, then you need to jump off that bandwagon as quick as you can. But for now, I think you just find the best coach possible, and
Yeah.
and you go from there.
Just like I said, it's going to be really hard with the situation. Let's just go through like what they even could do. Like, would it be beneficial to trade for a guy like Kyler Murray or Tua Tagovailoa?
No, I do
Those are
not want Kyler
Cleveland
Murray.
contracts too that are like just as big as Deshaun's.
I mean,
And
if you can get rid of Deshaun's contract, then okay, maybe.
yeah, I think that's gonna be really hard to do though. Man, with all this discussion too, we didn't even talk about Myles Garrett getting the sack record.
By the way, congrats to Myles Garrett.
We do
I don't
have to
care what
do
anybody.
that.
I don't care what anybody has to say. It's 17 games, whatever. Look at the snap count. He did it in half the amount of snaps. He was pressured 23% of the time compared to like 9% of the time of everyone else that is in that record range. He he deserved it, and I'm so happy for him. As much as I've bashed him at times, I'm still very happy for him and what he was able to accomplish in a Browns uniform. That will always be able to say he was a Cleveland Brown when he did it.
Hmm. For sure. Uh, so NFL playoffs is beginning this week, Ben. Like we said, the Ravens and the Steelers had a nice game to solidify the last spot for the AFC, but uh, just for time's sake, I don't think are going to go through every single matchup that's going on, although I will read them off right here. In the AFC, we got the Broncos with the bye, the top seed. We'll be seeing the Steelers go against the Texans, the Jags at the Bills, Patriots at the Chargers. Then the NFC, we got the Seahawks getting the first round bye. We'll be seeing the Panthers travel to the LA Rams, the Eagles at the 49ers, the Bears versus the Packers. Excuse me, I read all those backwards. It's the Texans at the Steelers, the Bills at the Jags, Chargers at the Patriots, Rams at the Panthers, Niners at the Eagles, Packers at the Bears. So it's going to be a lot of
Hmm.
fun first round matchups right there, I think. Right now, uh, trying to figure out who could be the Super Bowl teams, I think, is what I'm interested in discussing today. And everyone just has their flaws in the NFL, of course, and that's very obvious. Like going through the AFC, the Broncos and the Patriots, yeah, they're the 1 and 2 seeds, but they got two baby quarterbacks. They haven't really been tested in the regular season, especially with the Broncos. They lead the NFL in punts. That's why like the Bo Nix MVP discussion makes no sense to me. The Chargers can't block anybody. Justin Herbert's getting sacked and hammered all the time. The Bills, Josh Allen. he's going to have the least amount of quarterback competition, I think. No Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes here. But again, he's been dealing with a little bit of injury and inconsistency himself. The Steelers, I think they got a very low ceiling, which is why they almost missed the playoffs entirely. And looking at the Jags, it's just like Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. You can't trick me into thinking you're a good team just yet. I don't know, but the AFC picture, Ben. And then I didn't talk about the Texans, but they're coming in with the hottest or the longest winning streak. I think they've won their last nine after starting the season 0-3. Uh, maybe not the explosive offense that some of these other teams got, but yeah, just looking at the AFC picture first. Who's looking like maybe the threats? Who do you like the most to come out of that conference?
Um, I'm leaning more towards. I think that you can't count the Steelers. I feel like they're always going to be there in the AFC in a sense. But I actually, dare I say, dare I say, um, I think the Patriots have a really good shot of running all the way to the Super Bowl. And actually, they are going to be my team that is in the Super Bowl. And I'll explain the rest um, as we talk about it. But I think for me, the Patriots, and then probably next would be. That's a good question. Broncos, I guess, but I lean more Patriots than Broncos.
Broncos do have a good defense. They've been winning a lot in spite of Bo Nix. But yeah, Patriots before the season started, I thought it was a hot take to say they finished second in that division. They end up winning the division. Uh, Drake May's in the MVP discussion. The defense is great. I just wonder how much they really got tested in the regular season and how much Drake will be able to handle the playoff spotlight. As much as I want to say the Bills, there's just some things there that I it's the field's open for Josh Allen basically. He could turn into playoff Josh Allen and they could, totally make the run themselves too. But I'm actually leaning more the Houston Texans right now. We thought that last year was the season that they could get in, but injuries and issues with the offensive line ended up holding them back ultimately. But like I said, they started off not looking that great, but they come in hotter than anybody. They got one of the top scoring defenses in the league. They don't commit penalties. They don't turn the football over. Like they do everything the right way that I think is conducive to winning multiple games. And you get a good first matchup with the Steelers there too. I think to at least test you out. But yeah, that's where I'm leaning. The Patriots probably would be my second pick though. Uh, I
The
really want to
Texans,
say the Bills, but I
the
just can't do
Texans
it.
are an interesting one. I really do believe that CJ Stroud deserves it. He's worked his butt off, and I think that Texan Texan fan base also deserves it. I think too.
Yeah. I just think like I said, they got a 9 game win streak. They haven't lost in a while, so that you could argue that they're due for a loss also. But that's kind of what I'm thinking in the AFC picture. NFC is interesting also because Seahawks got the first bye, of course, but we've seen Sam Darnold choke in the big games. Caleb Williams and the Bears are second. They do a lot of good things. They lead the NFL in turnover margin. But still, the same concern with Bo Nix and Drake May as Caleb Williams is new to the postseason. How will he handle this scene? The Eagles, they got the 3 seed, but we've seen them look inconsistent at times. We don't know what version of Jalen Hurts we're going to get. They won a game where he didn't even complete a pass in the second half against the Bills, I think it was, and that was a game they only won by one. Don't think they can get away with that in the playoffs. 49ers, they're seeded six. They're definitely better than that per record. But they're a little banged up coming in right now. I do wonder how healthy that roster is because if they were healthy, super dangerous team, obviously. The Rams, nobody's scored more points than the Rams, Ben. I think that's who I'm leaning towards right now. Uh, Panthers, they've been up and down. They seem to beat everybody they shouldn't and lose to everybody they shouldn't. Very interesting schedule there. And then the Packers, uh, I don't know. They seem to be getting they're still a good team, but you don't have Micah Parsons anymore. What's Jordan Love going to look like here? Uh, so that's kind of the picture right there. And like I said, I'm leaning the Rams. They did look hot for a little bit. They come into the playoffs a little down, but they've beaten a lot of good teams this year. They score a lot. Matthew Stafford, I think, will win the MVP. Uh, there's a lot to like over in LA, I think, but I think the winner of the Super Bowl is probably going to come out of the NFC. I think you can make the case for maybe 3 to 4 teams out of there.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, I think of the NFC, I actually have the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are very loaded offensively. I think their defense is slowly starting to figure it out. But I'm going to go Seahawks, which is, I guess they're just, yeah, mm, Seahawks, 49ers I don't trust because of the injuries. And I feel like I feel like the 49ers have an injury like every day. I feel like I'm
They
looking,
always are injured,
yeah.
dude. If there
What's up
was
with
one
that
team
training
that I
staff,
would
by the
wish
way?
health for,
Yeah. I would say, so who did I say?
Seahawks.
Seahawks. And then I would say the only other one I was thinking of would be the Bears, but I really don't trust the Bears in a sense, to be successful as well in the playoffs. So for me, I think I'm going to go with Seahawks. I think my final matchup, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, would be Seahawks versus,
Patriots.
yeah, Patriots,
All right, and
which
I'm
would be
leaning
a
Texans
great,
Ravens.
kind of call back to history a little bit
Yeah, maybe they can run the football this time on the goal line.
instead of
We'll see.
throwing it at the 1 yard line. And if you don't
Yeah,
know what
I
I'm
think if
talking
I was to
about,
pick,
sorry.
yeah, if I was to pick one other team out of the NFC, I'd lean Eagles just because I know that the makeup is there and that they can play. They got the experience obviously from being in the Super Bowl last year. Like all the guys are there still. I just
Yeah.
they haven't been there at times. They've been
Hmm.
inconsistent, and I don't really like that. But they obviously got the makeup there
Hmm.
to be able to turn around and make a run again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'll all kick off this weekend. NFL playoffs. We'll see
Crazy.
the college football playoff happen Thursday, Friday. The NFL playoffs happening Saturday, Sunday, and Monday nights. Uh, show should be out by then. Uh,
Hmm.
as we're recording on January 6th.
Hmm.
I won't make any jokes, but maybe Ben wants to.
All I'm saying is, listen. All I'm saying is, I'm not trying to overrun your guys' ideas. Okay, I'm not trying to overrun your thoughts. Okay, tonight. So as you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, um, all I'm going to say is that I just want to make sure that you understand that I'm just visiting. Um,
Do you have a
something like
question
that.
for our comment section today, Ben? Anybody, any like
Yes,
find out who everyone else's Super Bowl pick is?
I think we do Super Bowl pick. Who's your Super Bowl pick? And also the second one would be, what is more likely, Indiana winning the national title or Ohio State having to replace Matt Patricia and having to redo their whole offensive coordinator and defense coordinator job? What is
Hmm,
more likely at this moment? Because I think it's a very strong possibility. I've just literally brought up an article that says that Matt Patricia is hesitant to sign an extension. So I'm just saying, what's more of the chance?
shoot, yeah,
Um,
that actually might even be decided before this episode comes out.
exactly. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, put that down below. And also put down below, what's it like at where you're at right now? Is it snowing? Because right now I'm looking outside my window and there is probably a good 4 to 5 inches on the roof of snow.
We had a
It's
lot of snow New Year's Eve, Ben. It stuck around
I
for a
think
while.
we're
It
getting that. I
finished
think
right
we're
around
getting
here.
what you guys had then.
Hmm.
So, but it's beautiful. I was outside, absolutely beautiful in the snow. So, but I hope you guys understand that it is football season is coming to a close, right, Josh? It's so sad. Football season is coming to a close. Before we know it, what, in a month, we're basically going to be moving on from football.
Yeah.
And we'll be on to baseball and basketball and everything in between. I will say, just so you guys know, a heads up, we will be having our mock drafts will be coming out probably, I'd say within a month and a half ish. is probably when our mock drafts start coming out. We're going to have our March Madness again because Josh and I are always correct. We are never wrong in our March Madness picks. If you know this
That's right.
show and you've been following for the last 3.5, 4 years, you will know that Josh and I are always correct on every single first round pick. We
Still
never
nobody's
overthink it.
tailing us though.
We
Nobody's
never
tailing our
overthink it.
picks yet.
Yeah, well, I don't think our picks are that bad. We haven't done that bad of picks, but my dad still likes to say that he beats us both in that. But we'll see. Maybe we'll have a little. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we can figure out how to do the online while we're doing the recording, and maybe we can do our co pick together of what we think. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how that works. I've seen it happen before, so maybe it's possible. I don't know. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys have enjoyed sitting, listening, watching. If you've loved watching on YouTube, click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And if you've loved listening to us on Spotify, let us know. Like I said, comment those things down below. Also comment, what do you think of Josh not wearing a true Cleveland Guardians hat, but he's wearing a Cleveland Indians hat? Do you feel like he is breaking the rules in this moment in time or not? That's that's more of a thought to think about. And if you see us, let us know. I'm just curious. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great, safe weekend. Have fun with friends and family. And until next time, we'll see ya.